All right, this is the very first episode of the Chesapeake Reel Masters podcast. And we thought that the best way to open up our pilot episode is by celebrating some of our top anglers that are in the club. So on the call tonight, in addition to our co-founder Carl Wynn, we have our Angler of the Year, Joshua Evans. We have our second place winner for Battle of the Best, Jesse Ketchum, and our third place winner, who is an absolute hammer, Charlie Russler. And we may have a special guest who will hop on a little later. But guys, you all have been consistent. You all have shown up and shown out in so many ways, on and off the water, as we may get a pretty interesting story a little bit later on. But we want to open up the floor to you all after I believe Carl's going to do a sponsor shout out. And then we'll just open up the floor to you all to share your story, to talk about your journey this season with CRM. We're definitely grateful for you all to be here, for you all to be a part of the club, because I think you all are what makes CRM what it is. So, yeah, I mean, Carl, you want to go ahead and shout out our sponsors before we get into the thick of it?
Cool. First and foremost, you guys know who our sponsors are. We only have 4, and we're blessed to have them. They've made this year unforgettable. One of our main sponsors, Big Bass USA. I cannot thank Chris Leslie enough for stepping in the beginning. People who know our story, how we got started, this man did not have to do what he did. But he stepped into the void and said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to rock with you guys. And, he kind of changed the dynamics of our season, the trajectory, everything when he made that announcement to us. And then we announced it to, in essence, the world that we were going to give $1,000 to the Angler of the Year. Which is, for us just starting out, we didn't have $1,000, but for our sponsor to get a sponsor that was willing to do that and take a flyer on us, we're forever grateful and, feel very blessed to have Chris come in and do that for us. Another person that stepped into the void when we needed a sponsor was Santiago Rivera. Santiago is with Kayak Fishing with Christ. If you haven't checked them out, they have a Facebook group page, Kayak Fishing for Christ Outdoors. And it's all about kayakers and their walk with the Lord. And it's a very interesting page. If you want to check them out, I encourage you to do so. They sponsored Big Bass USA. They sponsored the biggest bass of the year, which was won by Nick Maiers. And hopefully we can get Nick on our podcast tonight just to kind of discuss how he did it and share that with us. We had O-Line Baits that was sponsoring us this year. Thanks to Justin for doing that for us. He was offering 3 packs of baits to the first place winner, right?
Yes. Yep.
All right. And then we had Mech, who was on the Mech Baits, that Mech Baits. Let me put some respect on that. That's actually one of our sponsors, and he ended up being, as you all know, our Angler of the Year. He won Battle of the Best. He just cleaned up. But we're thankful for him for being a sponsor for us this year. And he stepped in and gave the the second and third place finishers custom crankbaits. And he did much more than that. But, Josh, man, we're forever grateful for you for stepping in and sponsoring our tournament club. We appreciate it. And with that, if I didn't forget anyone, I think that's all 4 of them, right?
Yeah, that's all 4. That's all 4.
And with that, I'll throw it back to you, Evan.
Good deal. So, hey, let's go down the timeline. So let's. Charlie has such an amazing story. I think we got to make him wait a little bit for Charlie's story. Let's get started with Josh because we'll come back to Josh since he's both the Battle of the Best winner and the Angler of the Year. But Josh, can you quickly give us a quick recap of what your season was like, and then we'll talk about Battle of the Best after that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I kind of touched on it a little bit in one of my recaps, but I found out that you guys had started up CRM, and it was at first it was kind of almost a threat, right? Because I'm part of the leadership for MKBF, and I'm like, okay, another trail starting up. And then I saw who's running. I said, hold up, that's my boy Carl. So let me reach out and see what's happening. And when he said, "I we're trying to do something different here, focusing on tidal bodies of water, highlighting those in Maryland, and just trying to do something a little different," I said, "Yeah, okay, that sounds pretty cool. I like tidal fishing." And then uh, I wanted to get involved. Um, Picked up a little side hobby of painting cranks, and I said, "Well, hey, if you guys need sponsors, I'm happy to do that with what I do." It's been a work in progress, but we're getting there. As far as the season goes, first event of the year, um, water was cold, upper Chesapeake Bay. Went and fished a place I'd never fished up there before, and last minute, 20 and a quarter bass ended up putting me in second place for the tournament. And I said, said I might have a shot at doing something pretty okay with this trail. I knew a lot of the faces. A lot of the guys I'm familiar with, either fish MKBF or some of the other trails that I've fished in the past. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the faces. And there's a lot of new guys too, which was intriguing because you got some guys that came from the bass boat side of things. You got some kind of wild cards that I had no idea anything about, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see how gangster we can get. And you know, throughout the course of the season, I mean, I got a second, a third, a third. I think I played every tournament I fished, and I finished in the top 10. And but I never got a win. And I did enough between that and some of the big bass that I caught. I got 2 big bass awards throughout the year to put me in contention going into the battle of the best, which is very exciting and nerve wracking all at the same time because I had never won an angler of the year before.
It's good stuff.
That was shocking that you said that. I never knew. I figured, man, all the tournaments you fished, I know you got at least one in your
Tell you
pocket.
what, I finished second or third in angler of the year. I mean, I can count it on probably both hands, but never actually won angler of the year. It's always been gear failure or me failure, and just not putting it all together when it matters the most. So for me, going into Battle of the Best was a very special opportunity. I was sitting in at the time what I thought was tied for second, and then in MAKBF, my other trail, I'm sitting in third currently going into our final event there. So I'm like, there's extra pressure on myself mentally because I'm like, man, I got a shot at winning 2 AOYs or not winning one, and just adding to the streak of almost, but not quite. And that, it sounds silly, but boy, it plays on you. I've been doing this for, the kayak tournaments now for almost 11 years, I think, 12 years, something like that. And staying out of your own head is probably the biggest thing that you can do right. And a lot of times it doesn't happen. You start overthinking everything. So yeah, man. Um,
Yeah, I know.
you know,
I know. Towards the end, I mean, it was a tight race for angler of the year. Um, it was one of those sneaky things because everybody was jockeying throughout the season. Some guys would come to tournaments, some guys wouldn't, and then guys win out of nowhere, and then they put wins together, and then all of a sudden you look at the AOY leaderboard, and it's bunched at the top, and there's people coming up from the bottom, bubbling up, and it's getting pretty interesting. And I know the last day of Battle the Best, well, actually before that, I know you guys were super nervous because you told me as much. So you want to explain a little bit how you're feeling with the butterflies and all that?
well, first off, I was very frustrated with myself. Well, I mean, I had a very special occasion, my wife's birthday, the weekend of that last Upper Bay event. And I'm never missing my wife's birthday for fishing. Definitely not. Um, that's my world. But that being said, I was when I saw that Jesse had won, I was like, oh, good Lord. And the fact that it was kind of a low turnout meant Angler of the Year points for other folks that were further back in the pack. They dropped a low one and moved way up. So it put some added pressure for sure. Um, I was super nervous going into day one, and then day one we had all that crazy wind. I mean, that was wild. And that had me kind of shook. And heck, I mean, I don't know if you want how deep you want me to go into it, but even after leading day one, I mean, I nearly went home that night. So, you know, um, yeah, it was crazy.
I'm sure Jesse would have appreciated that.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
Absolutely.
ask Jesse at the ramp on day two. With how I thought the math had worked out, I had already congratulated him, and I said, dude, based on the math, I don't think I can beat you. Even if I win this, and because you're already in position to take second or third, so mathematically, I don't think I can beat you. So I gave him his props in the morning, and we went off to do battle anyways. And then, well,
Well,
y'all know,
I'm responsible for the math being off.
I'm not mad about it though. I'll tell you that. I
I
know
know
Jesse might
that's
be a little upset, but
No, definitely not.
so. Here's what happened, guys. We Carl and I were both looking at the potential outcomes, and we wanted to quadruple check the rules to make sure that we had this dialed in. Because last thing we wanted to do was hand out a $1,000 check to the wrong person. Um, and I was like, I'm going to die by the sword. I noticed I had made a mistake, and the blunder that I made was that for everyone who wins Big Bass in CRM, they are to be awarded an additional 2 points to their total score for each event for whenever they catch Big Bass. And it just so happened that Josh caught Big Bass twice, which bumped him up. I mean, the first event you got second, but you really got 101 points.
So he was trailing by 1 point going into Battle of the Best before we discovered all this, right?
Yes, there was a 1 point. There was 1 point separating Jesse from Josh
me and
Kyle.
Yeah.
So going into the weekend, any of them, the three of them, could have walked away with the win potentially. But once we corrected the score or tie, and we're trying to figure out what happens if you get a tie for AOI. Does it go to whoever caught the biggest bass of the tournament, biggest bass of the season? Is it whoever has the next highest finish? But then once we actually added those big bass points back in, that gave Josh a bit of a gap. So that's what happened. So we actually called Josh and Jesse and had to make those phone calls the morning of. But
that was such a mixed emotions call because on one hand I was super excited, but at the same time, my fishing buddy who I had fished with all year, I knew he got that same call and was probably not feeling so happy about it. And so I felt horrible. Honestly, I felt excited but horrible. And I said, well, when I hung up with you guys, I told you guys, I said, hey, I'm gonna go fish this totally different now. And at that point, I swing for fences and try to get some final big fish and all that. And yeah.
But the belt was still at stake, though. At that point, the best belt was still at stake.
Yeah.
Even if AOI was not reached.
At that point in the day, Jesse hadn't posted a single fish yet, and I had moved away to a whole different area to kind of explore some of my other spots. And I was like, man, like this is kind of crazy. Like, Jesse could still win if he puts up a flurry of fish, which ended up happening. He did put up, 4 good ones, kind of like back to back to back to back.
Charlie went off too.
Charlie did go off in day 2.
Dude, day 2.
Charlie.
I was watching Charlie. I was like, wait a minute. Charlie has 5 fish already, and it was like an hour into the tournament. And me and Jesse are looking at each other like, yo, there's no bites happening. What's going on?
Charlie, what happened on day 2? And then can you tell us why day 2 was so much different than day 1?
Well, I mean, I went and practiced with Pete a few 2 weeks before the tournament, or actually it may have been a little earlier than that. And where I fished on day 2, I caught plenty of fish, but I was on about, I think I had 76 inches the day me and Pete practiced. And I really didn't think that would be enough. So day 1, I decided to try the main river and never got a chance to go back out and practice at that spot. I knew the grass was there. I knew the fish were there, but I hadn't practiced. And first day of the tournament, they were not biting where we launched. I caught one fish before it got daylight. Had another good one jump off, and those were the only 2 bites. No, I had one more bump it. Didn't try to eat it, but he bumped it. And I only had 3 bites on that flat that whole day. So day 2, I decided I'm just going to catch fish where I caught them before. I mean, I'm pretty much out of it. I'm just going to go have fun. So went back to the spot I practiced with Pete and caught a good many fish.
It's funny how you catch fish when you're relaxed. You don't really care about the outcome. You're just out there, just doing you, and you get into them. But I don't know. I don't know if it's like a mental block on tournament days. We just outthink ourselves and spin out sometimes. But it does seem to come or flow better when you're just out there and you just like rolling with it, like you did on the second day, and you just tore it up.
I really wasn't too nervous on day 1 because I hadn't practiced there. I was just taking a shot.
Yeah.
I thought if I can go out there and catch what I know is out there, I'll be all right. It was just a shot. I just didn't think what I had where I practiced would be enough. In hindsight, I think it would have been, but how things go.
Yeah, because you were only 46 inches off the lead. Like if you would have caught another, I don't know how many fish. What is that? 3 fish?
Yeah, probably.
On day 1, you would have been right there battling for the belt, right there.
I had more inches on day 2 than anybody had the whole tournament. So
yeah.
The
what ifs? So Jesse, what was your mentality going into day 1?
Well, I didn't think I was going to fish the tournament, so.
Oh, that's right.
I remember I was messaging you and Evan, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to make it." This was like a month, 2 months out. And I was kind of like, it's going to be whatever, because I had my brother's bachelor party scheduled for that Saturday, and I agreed to go drive to Pittsburgh and pick him up and then bring him back on Sunday. And then, we'll get into that. But then, early that week, Monday or Tuesday, the best man called me. He was like, "Hey, I think we're going to move it." And I was like, "Oh. Well, this would have been good to know." I could have gone and practiced, because I know September on the Potomac can be really tough, and there's some other places I probably would have launched and just done some other things. But I was like, I've done really good here all year. I know there's fish here. You just got to find them. But I had no idea what the water looked like, what the grass was looking like. Because in the last was the Midsummer Madness tournament. Out there, that grass was lush, green, beautiful, like high tide. It was perfect. Like you could high tide, do what you want, low tide, just slow down, find them. But there were like 3 areas that I had throughout the entire summer. So I was kind of like, I know there's fish here. Where are they? So I kind of was like, we'll see what happens. But I knew, well, at the time, thinking I was first in AOY, I was like, I just need a decent little finish.
Now, I think I know what you were doing, but were you power fishing? Just to let the audience know, were you power fishing or were you finessing?
Finessing, really slow, like painfully slow. Like, I mean, I was fishing Cincos. I was catching everything on like Texas rig, like green pumpkin, dying the tail chartreuse. Just incredibly slow, because I knew no one else
painful to watch.
That. Yeah, I mean, like, Josh tried coming over and doing something, because in the second day 2 of Midsummer Madness, I like pulled up at the right time, and I mean, there was a mega school. Like, it was every other cast for me, and then Josh comes over, the spinner major starts boom, 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 and he's like, "What the heck did we find?"
Now, Josh, oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say,
the bass boats saw.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
My bad. I was just going to ask Charlie, were you power fishing or were you finessing? Or did it even matter?
Power fishing.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't really like chucking and winding too much. I will drag a brush hog 3 inches and then count to 60 seconds and then drag it again, kind of thing.
Dude, that is a mental game.
Yeah, I do not have that discipline.
But like, once you're already fishing that slow and you're not getting bites, like was happening to me on day 2, I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I start chucking and winding, and I start catching like 20-pound blue cats in like the thickest grass I've ever seen. And I was like, I don't know what's going on today.
That is really like a mentality though, to slow down like that and just Like I'm going to fish this way the whole tournament or the whole day. That's a mentality. I mean, I had that mentality when I was doing the co-angler thing. We would get out on the flats like Belmont Bay or something like that. I used to love that because I would break out a Cinco and just drag that thing all day. I wouldn't throw anything sexy. I would just throw that till I got a limit, and some days you just couldn't put it down.
Yeah, I mean, even when I'm power fishing, same thing. I'm fishing. I just want to barely feel that like a chatterbait. Like I'm barely feeling that blade ticking 99% of the time. I don't know. I just fish slow. Like I'll sit there with a drop shot and just shake it for 2 hours in the same spot, kind of deal most times. And I mean, also growing up like in the Columbia area, fishing all those pressured lakes, like that's kind of what you have to do.
Yeah.
There's about 3 days a year you can go out there and like power fish.
All right, so I think Josh caught the big bass, right, of the tournament.
Yeah,
what did you catch your bass on? And what size was it? Because I forgot.
It was 20 1/4, and ironically enough, that's what I caught the big bass at the beginning of the season, the first event too, on the Upper Bay. So that was kind of funny to me. But War Eagle spinnerbait, 3/8 ounce, slow rolling it through some grass, no trailer.
That's my favorite. I don't even buy any other spinnerbait. That's all I buy is War Eagle.
And it's funny actually.
My
favorite. I was going to say my favorite color to throw. I had actually casted it off earlier in the day, and I didn't want to go digging in my stupid tackle spot in my kayak to find the other one I had with me. So I put on a different color that I don't traditionally throw quite as much. And that was the ticket. I caught 3 of my 4 keepers on day 2 on that.
Okay.
Wow.
That War Eagle, is that the one with the weighted hook, or like the?
No, that. I thought I showed you that day. I'll send you pictures.
Okay.
I planned on having baits here, but then I left all my rods and stuff in my kayak storage, so my bad.
But, so Carl and I were talking about this kind of offline, but a hammer dropped in. Nate Hall. Nate saying, "Great job, guys, all around this year. He's hoping his schedule works out next season where he can attend a few events." For those who do not,
this guy. Let me say something about this guy right here. For you guys, I didn't mean to cut you off, Evan, but I had to say this. Nate Hall. We got to have Nate Hall on here. We didn't get the opportunity to have Nate Hall come on. Nate Hall is a straight up hammer.
Man.
I'm not gonna lie. He had I'm not gonna say everybody, but he had a lot of guys shook at the beginning of the year because he came out the gates with was it 3 in a row, 4 in a row?
Yeah, he pulled off the first hat trick ever in the CRM KBF club history.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
I mean, he had Angler of the Year in control, and his scheduling just didn't match up to come out and fish with us again. But and also, man, wishing you guys all the best.
Yeah.
We heard about the fire, man. So I hope everything is good with you guys. It's good to actually hear from you, and we got to have you on sometime, Nate.
Yes, indeed. But that was an interesting time during the season because we're like, are we about to start losing guys? Our folks want to just stop fishing because Nate came in back to back to back. But the question I was going to ask, Carl and I were talking about this offline, but it was like, you all fish different types of vessels, right? Like Jesse, you have a pedal kayak that's like a 10-foot pedal kayak. Josh, you have a Jackson Kusa X, right? And it's powered by a motor. And then Charlie, you have the new what's the name of it, Charlie? What are you?
It's the Innovative Sportsman Osprey 1436.
Right. And that thing is just I love that boat. So can you all talk about why you've made the decisions that you made this season to go with the boats that you fish and how they really complement your fishing style? Because this will be a continued episode. But I was just thinking, Jesse didn't have a motor. He finished second. Josh had a motor. Charlie, you have a motor, but you have a completely different fishing system. Let's kick it off with Jesse. Because to me, I feel like what Jesse did was just extremely impressive.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So Carl, I got a text, I think, from Carl or saw something in a group chat, and he was like, I'm starting a kayak trail. you guys should come out to like a bunch of us. And I was like, hey, I don't know if I really want to be in a kayak. But then last minute, I started talking to another buddy, Jonathan, and he starts just sending me kayaks on Facebook Marketplace. I have a shed in the backyard of our townhouse, and I can only fit a 10-foot kayak in there, and it barely fits. Like I'm trying to like think about how I can cut away some areas so I can get a motor mount on there and whatnot, or I'm just gonna build some weird little shed for it. So it's not my first preference, but I run the Native Slayer Max 10. I actually ended up liking it a lot. It's definitely a smaller kayak, but I can still hold way more than I would ever need at the end of the day. But I definitely do want to like switch up just to 12 foot because one, it tracks better. You tend to get a little bit better speed. And the 10 foot, I'll tell you, out on the Upper Bay, especially that last Upper Bay tournament, got a little dicey, especially when you have 2-3 foot rollers coming in from boats and then the wind's going the complete opposite direction. It just became a mess at some points. But I never felt like, oh no, I'm gonna flip. It was just like, this is kind of annoying because sometimes you see some waves coming in, you're like, I gotta point the bow of the boat straight at it, or I may flip. But I will probably upgrade if I can, or I'm just gonna keep this and completely rig it out, probably way too much, and see what it can handle in a sense. But
I mean, it handled second place pretty well, out of, I'm looking at 47 anglers in our club. So,
and I mean, I had nothing on it. I had a couple accessories, something to hold my net, like one of those Yak Attack little Y thingies that has the little rollers. I had that for my net, and that was about it, and something to hold a paddle. But I will probably be putting a bunch of graphs and motors and whatnot on it.
good deal.
Jesse, I think that's awesome, man. And to do what you did without a motor just goes to show you all you need is the basics to come out and fish with us or any tournament. You don't really need all the fancy gear. You don't need front forward facing, backward facing, and so on. You don't need all that stuff.
Yeah.
You just need basic fishing knowledge and just a good kayak that's stable and some kind of propulsion, whether it's pedal or paddle or, whatever else they got out there. You don't really need a motor. And you can really do a lot of damage. In fact, Nate Hall doesn't have a motor.
I mean,
you don't even have pedals.
Right.
Nate Hall hauled in almost $5,000 in like 3 tournaments with no motor. I mean, and trust me, there was a lot of guys going after the same amount of money with motors.
Yeah.
I just want to say something. On day one of that first Potomac tournament, I launched out of where a bunch of guys did, but Nate was there, and I could see him the entire day, and I was like, what is he doing over there? But I see him just going past me paddling, and I'm like, look at this dude. And then we get off the water, and everyone's like, oh, how'd you do? And he's like, he's super quiet guy, and then he just goes up, and I'm like, he's winning. I'm like, he won everything, and I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Oh, Nate's a freaking hammer, dude. I've known about Nate for years now. When I saw him enter, I was like, oh boy, we in for it.
And Nate didn't practice
too, right? He's out of Pennsylvania too, right?
And he ain't ever fished title either. Boy, I was upset.
That's crazy.
Hey,
yeah,
I just want to say one thing you left out, Carl. All you need is a little confidence and a little nerves of steel, boy. I'll tell you what. You go out there in a damn 10-foot Pelican with nothing but a paddle and a life vest, and you can kill it. You just got to go out there and be a little confident.
That's it. That's it. You heard it from Josh. All you guys, the new guys out here that's thinking about getting a kayak, that might want to come out and fish with us next year, but not sure how you're going to put it all together. Just get a kayak, man. Go on Facebook Marketplace, or better yet, go to Big Bass USA.
There you go.
I'll add our boy Chris and get you a discount on a brand new kayak and get yourself out there and get your gear on, man. So
that's what Kyle did. He fished out of his autopilot. I think him and Charlie had the same boat for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
I got the PDL 120. He had the 106.
The 106, okay. But yeah, Kyle didn't have a motor until the end of the season, and he finished third in AOI. And this was his first year competing in kayak bass fishing. So
yeah, so that's 2 out of the 3 that had no motor.
Yeah, and
that were in the top 3 AOI. So that in itself is just, I mean, if that doesn't tell you you can come out here and fish and hang with these guys without a motor, I don't know what else to tell you. Because it can be done.
Josh and Charlie, you all both have, was it stern mount motors, right? Like Josh, you have a Torpedo. Charlie, you have is it
Newport.
Newport?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if we can let the cat out of the bag as far as your motor for next season, Josh, but
I mean, I'll be running probably running a Newport 300.
okay.
Yeah, no huge news on that, but I just got some lining up some stars differently and opportunities coming my way and whatnot. So,
Can I share a quick story about Josh? He probably doesn't even know.
Go for it.
I remember, like we always had that big tournament in April with all KBF and the Virginia Club and then MAKBF, and that was like my Super Bowl. I used to love fishing that tournament. Everybody knows that. I remember one year I was out practicing and I seen Josh, and I was 4 miles out. I think I was in Occoquan.
I know where you were. Yeah.
And I went all
He was out
the
there.
way
He was
out.
out there standing on the end of that grass flat, standing up the whole damn day.
I was I'm gonna tell you where I was. I was out there at Depot Point. If you Google that, you'll know where I was. I launched out of Occoquan Regional Park, and I got a Motor Guide XI3, and that for me that's far because I got to get back too. Josh, I saw Josh and somebody else. They passed me, and they went out of sight further out. And I said, "This I gotta. I don't know what you had, but it was a rear mounted motor."
It was 1103.
Gone. I mean, way out there.
Actually, you know what?
Incredible.
You know what? At that time, actually, I was testing out a Newport 180, the NK 180. Right when they first came out, I was testing that out. That was just prior to me getting the 1103. I remember that because Scylla had an 1103, and she had to keep slowing down for me so I could keep up with her, which is what prompted me to find the 1103 that I currently have.
How far did you guys go out that day? Because you went out of sight.
Well, you know what? We got out to that same kind of flat area out there at the mouth, and then she was like, "Oh, my homeboy was telling me about this one spot over yonder." And I said, "Well, I never fished there," so we just went. She's like, "Just look at the house and start going that way." I said, "Okay." We went all the way over to that far bank. I couldn't tell you what it's called.
Were you at the mouth of the Potomac like that?
Nah, we went the other direction. I don't know. All I remember was there was a white house.
Okay,
I remember seeing a white house
towards the creek. Then okay.
Well, we went out of Occoquan, out of the mouth of Occoquan, and went left.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went pretty far though. Yeah.
That's awesome. Charlie, have you ever fished Occoquan?
Yeah, quite a few times.
Okay, because we were thinking, Evan and I were thinking, and I think Mark Nelson brought this up at Battle of the Best. We were sitting there eating pizza, and I was asking the guys, what do you think we should do different next year? And he had a great idea as far as breaking down the Potomac and the Upper Bay into sections. And then that way, like we break it down to Aquai, we break it down to Belmont Bay, we break it down to Mattawoman. I don't know what else, maybe Pohick Bay or something like that. But break it down into sections and go at it in sections. And then at Battle of the Best, it's the whole thing is open, whatever body of water we're fishing, whether it's Potomac or the Upper Bay. And I think he was talking about splitting up the we were talking about splitting up the Upper Bay from Middle River to the Northeast, and then you got Havre de Grace and all that kind of stuff too. And then you got the Sassafras on the other side. But I thought that was a great idea and maybe a more interesting test instead of everybody going out to the same spot every year, a Mattawoman doing the same thing or, the Upper Bay doing the same thing. I mean, because he said, if I have to go down to Aquai, if the tournament is going to be in Aquai, now I got to go out there and practice, instead of showing up at Mattawoman and fishing history. I actually got to go out there and try to figure it out. So he thought that would be more interesting. I don't know what you guys think, but we can go around the panel and get you guys out.
Yeah, how do y'all feel about that?
I love the idea. Yeah, I thought it was a great idea when he brought it up to rewards.
Yeah, I agree.
Jesse?
I mean, after this year and having that one spot, no, but I like it a lot. I mean, because unless I'm fishing in like an MLF tournament or whatever, I'm not running around too much. I mean, Mattawoman's the closest from home. Those first two Potomac tournaments, I every morning and night drove down from northern Baltimore to Aquia and then back. So that was fun. But I've made the trek. But I like that idea a lot. Especially, I mean, because most of these creeks, I mean, Aquia really has one launch. Belmont, Occoquan has one, maybe two, if you want to say that. So it'd be like cool to even do like a shotgun start, like we all go right here. I don't know. And also, like, then you have your awards right there. Like, everyone's there. There's not people who are like fishing on the Virginia side there that are like, I'm not going to run over to Mattawoman and hang out. So at least with that, it builds that bigger community camaraderie and stuff like that, which I'm all about.
I agree with Jesse and Charlie 100% on that. I think that, you know, if you host it out of, you know, say Aquia or Occoquan or whatever, you know, making it mandatory that, you know, you launch in that creek or, you know, whatever it might be. I don't know how you do it, but I would say put up a poll for the anglers to vote on that. But I think that would be a brilliant thing to highlight, you know, multiple sections of both tidal fisheries, and also make it a little bit more of a challenge instead of just honey hole. You know, granted, I didn't just sit in the same spot the whole time, but, you know, I knew that I could do milk runs and come back. You know, those other places, it might be a little bit different story. So I'm up for it. I love it. I like the thing about the camaraderie that Jesse was talking about. That's one of the things that, you know, builds foundations for all great clubs, really, is that camaraderie. And that's a piece that becomes lost sometimes. So I think, you know, having the awards, I mean, hell, I'd even recommend having the awards being mandatory for AOI points, attending awards, because that's a return on investment for your sponsors, for exposure for them, but also it you know, increases engagement between the club members, which I think is very important.
So
Might be a poll question.
I think it is. I'll get it dialed up. But hey, fellas, question. Of course, we know as the season changes, the mood and personality of bass change. Their migration changes a little bit, right? I mean, Tidal River is kind of predictable where they'll be, but did you all have, and you don't have to say what the lure is, but did you all, I mean, I know Jesse talked about finesse, but was there a certain type of lure, whether it was, you know, a flipping type of lure, or if it was something that moves through the water column like a crankbait or a chatterbait or whatever it may be, that you could rely on all season? Or did you have to find that with every tournament, you had to figure them out differently? How did that work out for you all from April to September? There's a lot of people that say, you know, just throw a Cinco and you'll be okay. Is it that simple?
You mean from the start of the season all the way to the end?
Yeah, like did you have an Old Faithful? Like did one lure cut you 80% of your checks, or did you pretty much win a check on a different lure every turn?
It's I would say for me, it was a combination of a couple of baits. Okay. And I use them every time I'm on the Potomac. I mean, they're staples. I mean, you got your chatterbait, you got your swim jig, you got your Cinco. You know, you throw a spinnerbait up in there, as Josh found out from time to time. You know, and it can be productive. It just depends on the situation, what you're fishing. If you're fishing grass, you know what tools to use. If you're fishing up on the bank and there's a lot of wood, you know what tools to use. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just a matter of how you like to fish. That's why I love the Potomac so much, because whatever style you like fishing, you can pretty much find it there. In the upper bay.
Is anybody punching?
I brought all of my 2 ounce and a half weights, and I was going around like cheese mats, and I was like, I mean, especially on day one, I mean, the bites it was kind of like one every like hour and a half or whatever, except for Josh. Josh got out there and just caught 4 within 15 minutes right in front of me, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't watch this right now. And then it turned on for me. But yeah, I mean, this time of year, I knew about some spots, especially in the back of the creek, where I could have gone and punched. But I mean, that is a slow, exhausting day. But with the wind, especially at times, I was like, I can't be paddling my kayak right now through all that cheese. I tried it a little bit on day 2, but the tide, I didn't hit it right. I got spun out at one point, but
I refuse to punch ever. I hate it.
All
Too much
right.
sloppy, gross, nasty nonsense. I'm good.
If you see me with a punching rig on my kayak, it's for show. Because I'm not used to it.
If you see me with a punching rig, know that I'm about to flip my kayak on purpose.
Just do it in shallow water.
That's just how I feel. Nah, I can't do it.
I know Greco won it punching, so he says, in the back of Matt. Jesse's eyes were in different directions.
well, this past weekend there was 2 back-to-back MLF tournaments, and both days I'm pretty sure it was one punching.
Huh.
Yeah, on the second day, I'm pretty sure the top 5 all were punching.
So is that more of a bass boat thing because of maybe the way that you can position yourself? Like, why don't kayak anglers really seem like they punch that much? At least that's a trend.
Leverage. You need leverage.
I know a lot that do. Honestly, I just prefer not to. I think it's I can't cuss, so I'm just gonna say nah. It's a pain. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
It's also like, I mean, it is like punching is like a weird art form. I mean, like I've been with some of like the best punchers on the Potomac, and I told Josh, I'm not gonna say this out loud, but I texted Josh, and when I knew I wasn't fishing, I was like, hey, look for this super specific like thing. And that's he called me and was like, dude, I found what you said, and I also just caught like a 20-incher, and I was like, oh god.
I was like, come here.
But I know with punching, it's like an art form. Like you're not like, you can go into a big grass mat, but like there could be no fish under there. But then you go under the super tiny grass mat, but there's something super specific of the like types of grass and stuff like that. And I mean, I like doing it. I know I'm not gonna spill the beans on it because you can't find it everywhere. But like you do it for like a little bit of time, you slowly start noticing and figuring out those little things with punching, and it becomes less of like a tedious task. It's more of it's almost like equate it to like you're going down the bank and you just see a bunch of lay downs. Like that's what the punch becomes for you versus just like mindlessly flipping in grass all day long.
Good to know. I'm asking questions for like people who are going to see this and be like, I have these questions in the future.
I was just gonna kind of answer the question prior that you had asked regarding the baits for all year.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, there is some variance there. At the beginning of the year, it's a lot of my personal cranks that I painted and some other lipless moving baits that I don't put down really during the spawn time frame. But after that, it's all spinner baits and Senkos for the most part, except for day one. Day one was something I hate throwing and I never throw, and well, they liked it, so that was okay.
Do any of you guys throw a drop shot?
All day. Right. I don't think I've ever fished a tournament without having it on.
All right.
Like one tied up.
Drop shot.
Evan, you fish a drop shot?
I actually gave away all of my drop shot weights a few days ago. I hate drop shot.
Why didn't you call me?
Sorry, but
what about you, Charlie?
I like a drop shot on the St. Lawrence, not on the Potomac.
Charlie's a man's man, man. He's a power fisherman through and through. He's not gonna put a spinning rod in his hand.
I don't need a spinning rod.
Y'all got me all wrong.
What?
I grew up dragging a Potomac, man.
What was that, Charlie?
I grew up on the upper Potomac dragging a tube.
Oh, yay. Wow.
That's one thing I will not throw is a tube, man. I never understood how to rig it.
Because they suck. Don't ever throw them.
They get hung up.
Tell them, Charlie.
But I heard great things about them, though. I just can't figure it out.
Tell you what, a side story real fast. So, Jesse, you know how I was talking about how much I love Black Hills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen the giant TRDs, the big old sluggo looking joints?
Yeah.
I had a 5/0 hook, one of those, and I was drop shotting in 20 feet of water. And there was this giant tree coming up, and I told my boys, I'm gonna cast it against that tree and I'm gonna catch a 5-pounder. Swear to God. First cast. Oh, I'm hooked up. 5-pounder.
I have a lot of questions for that. When did you wake up and say, I'm gonna drop shot this 7-inch TRD?
a wild day, and I said, "Oh, let me just try something different," and boy, it was hitting it. But I hate drop shotting, so that's kind of also why I did it.
5 odd.
Yeah,
That's
that's
good.
kind of crazy.
But
Also, Evan, for you, drop shotting, I'm gonna say go find whoever sold those weights to, and just go to Bass Pro Tackle Warehouse and buy 1 pack of the RoboWorm Margarita Mutilator and just only throw that.
it's on my tackle wall. I have it.
That's all you need.
The drop shot is like, you gotta have that in your arsenal. You got.
Oh.
I mean, you can do so many things with it. You can flip wood with it if you rig it right. You can flip docks. You can flip grass lines.
I
You
just
can
feel like
lily pads, all that stuff. I mean, it's all.
I'd rather get a filling with no Novocaine. Like,
Yeah.
it's.
I'm telling
But
you, man.
actually, Jesse,
some
I
of
have
the biggest
Aaron's.
pads.
I have that RoboWorm and Aaron's Magic. I do not have Margarita Mutilator, so I will pick that up.
If you need a pack, I got about way too many.
Sheesh. All right. But so Charlie, I'm interested. You said that you came from the bass boat world prior to kayak fishing, right?
Correct.
And then you made a mid-season kayak change.
I did.
What led to that, and did your background in bass fishing have anything to do with that decision?
I think the bass boat background did it. I love the other kayak, and I kept it in case I fish a tournament that doesn't allow a motor or something. But I ran out of room. I mean, I'm a big guy, and I like to have lots of stuff in there. And I was just running out of room. I didn't like how it laid out and how things were. And I'm with Josh fishing over at the MAKBF as well, and Innovative Sports was one of their sponsors. And talking to Trey and all those guys that had them and seeing them, Jake, actually up at the second weekend we fished up there at Conowingo, I took a good look at Jake's and I was like, that is almost exactly what I think I need. It's a blank canvas, from front to back, plenty of room, which is what I was looking for. And I wanted something I could beat up because it's inflatable and it's not going to break.
Yeah.
You hit those rocks up on the Susky and you're going to break some plastic. But yeah, that was my main thought behind it. And once I got it, it was more than I even thought it would be. So very happy with it.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the blank canvas, because then you can position everything just how you want it. Get all your gear right.
Yeah.
I mean, and the reason I asked was because the seasons are ending for a lot of trails this month, if not next month. But this is kind of like, for me, I'm into making my own lures, but I'm also going to be helping. I'm going to start rigging out my boat. And I know a lot of folks are going to be rigging out their boats in preparation for next year. So, during the off season, what do you guys do? How do you guys spend the winter months? Are you all out there throwing blade baits, or are you on the couch watching football and just kind of resting and recovering? What do the top anglers do to stay at the top when they may not be on the water?
Try not to get depressed.
That's true. Less light outside too.
Yeah, man. I personally, I don't fish in the winter anymore. Matter of fact, I had a couple really close calls, so I sold my dry suit and don't go out anymore as far as fishing goes. So usually the off season consists of um, either restocking on specific tackle, rods, reels, things that I need or may have lost or broken or whatever. Usually selling 1 or 2 of the kayaks I have because my wife tells me I need to stop collecting them, and then getting my boats rigged up for the following season. So um, October 19th is my last tournament of the year, and I actually posted kind of a precursor of, hey, these things will be available. I'll be selling my Kusa X, which I've been fishing a Kusa X the last 2 seasons now. Love that boat. It's great on pretty much everything from rivers to tidal water to big lakes. I mean, you name it. It's super versatile platform. But I'm gonna go with some bigger stuff next year. I'm actually gonna be having 2 kayaks next year. I'm be splitting time between a big rig FD, a Jackson big rig FD, which is like fishing on a boat dock. Jesse, you definitely gonna need to check that out, and then go talk to Chris because I promise you're gonna want one. Super stable, lots of room for your stuff, or just for you if you're a big guy like myself. And then I'm also getting a Take 2, which is a tandem kayak made by Jackson. But if you configure it in the solo configuration, um, it's like 14 feet of just
Good.
open platform riggability, and it drafts in like less than 6 inches of water.
Oh,
Super high, weight capacity because it's a tandem kayak. But in the solo configuration, it's a beast. It's gonna be good on rivers. Or if I just want to stand and flip all day or whatever, it's a great boat for that. So I'll be switching over back to 2 kayaks next year, just to give myself a little versatility.
Is that Take 2 like the XTR from Bonafide?
Yes, it's the XTR before the XTR was invented,
Okay.
and it doesn't have a little platform you can stand on up front because no need. Although that is a really cool feature of the XTR. That's super cool. I just worry about gunnels being able to support a big boy like myself. You know what I mean? But that being said, yeah, I mean, the Take 2 is a super cool platform. I got to test it out when we first dropped it a couple years ago, and haven't owned one yet. And so I'll be getting one of those this off season as well.
Jesse, I know you fish as a couple in basketball tournaments as well. Does that impact off season at all? Like, do you approach preparing for the next season differently, or do you just shut off from fishing completely? How does that work?
No, I mean, I don't watch football or anything. I only fish, and I will fish. The lakes will be frozen here, and for about 3 weeks to like a month and a half, that is the worst time of my life, and I don't know what to do with myself. So I try to like rig up stuff, but I mean, my office is an absolute wreck right now. I mean, my car still has 25 rods in it, way more tackle than I would ever need in that car. But yeah, I'll fish all winter, and I mean, from even like obviously going around chuck and wind and blade baits, drop shot stuff like that, all over Maryland. But yeah, you can people like steer like clear of like winter fishing, but I mean, once you kind of get it dialed in, but I would just tell anyone go out there with 2 rods, a gold blade bait and a silver blade bait. Just get a silver buddy or something like that. I mean, they're more expensive for like just hunks of metal, but you can go out there and whack 30 to 50 fish days on the right day, or you'll still catch like 1 or 2 fish. But it's the winter and you're like, no one else is out there. It can be a lot of fun. But yeah, I fish all year round if I can. I'll try to rig up, but I bet you 3 days before I start practicing for the first tournament next year, I'm going to be like, I got to go get a new line. Crap.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll be doing overnight shipping for all the tackle that I need. But
So Josh ends his season roughly October or so before he gets super cold. Jesse, it seems like you fish year round. Charlie, what about you? What do you do during the off season?
Usually I'll make a trip or two to Lake Anna. Pick a good weekend here or there, hit the rivers, Upper Potomac or the Susquehanna, and pray that enough people come to work that I can get away and maybe head down south for a few days. But that usually doesn't happen.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Man. Carl, I think we've had a full conversation.
Yeah.
Before we end, do any of you all, tournament fishing, do any of y'all go to Florida like earlier in the year? I know Aaron Fetterman went down there and caught like a 26-inch bass before we really got started up here. I think it was Aaron, right? He caught that that massive slunch.
Like 25 3/4, I think is what it was. Massive.
Double digit.
I personally don't like alligators, big ass lizards that swim. Nah, I'm good. I don't fish in Florida. I had close calls in Texas. I still like fishing Texas, but I was down on a lake in Texas, and it was during mating season, and the lake was flooded. I don't even remember what lake it was, but I do remember going up in I was fishing in people's backyards because the lake was so flooded, and it sounded like Jurassic Park. You know, when the dinosaurs be calling to each other. You know, the raptors when they're talking, like that. I was just like, nah. I fished offshore the whole damn tournament, bro. I was like, I'm gonna finish somewhere in the middle of the pack, and I am okay with finishing in the middle of the pack on this one. I don't care how far I drove, because nah.
It's
So I
gotta
don't
be
mess
tough.
with. yeah, it's some people are like, oh no, they won't mess with you, but then you hear stories like Christine Fisher got chased. I mean, I got chased on the Red River once by alligators, so I'm straight, man. Like I don't mess with big ass lizards. So I'm cool with that.
No thanks. I know
Nah.
Louisiana, South Carolina, Florida, Texas. Look out.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Hey, Caddo Lake is like Caddo and Bistineau, man. There's gators there, but as long as you go at the right time of year when they're still asleep or whatever they do, it's okay, man. So I fish down there, and there's some good fish in there, man. Golly, but once some alligators start getting active and all of them water moccasins, nah, count me out, bro. I'm gonna go ahead and move back up to this area where there ain't none of that.
Yeah, well, listen, guys, one more time. Congratulations to our Angler of the Year, Josh Evans. Also, big bass winner of the Battle of the Best tournament. Second place, Nick Maiers, who won the biggest bass of the year. He caught a 21-inch bass out of the Potomac River. I forgot which stop it was. It might have been stop 6 or something like that. But 21. So, will
Josh,
that be yeah.
I just had a quick question for Josh. I was expecting to see that belt. Is that belt nearby?
Well, stop playing. Hold up.
I love it.
I'm working on. I got to put up shelves here in the basement area. I got to put up shelves and some mounts for some of my trophy checks and whatnot. And the belt's gonna get its own little personal shelf. I ordered a bunch of them, so I just gotta talk to the wife where she give me permission to put them up. Cause I put them in the wrong spot. She's gonna tell me I'm silly and get mad.
Understood.
Yeah. Now, Jesse finished second in Battle of the Best and second in AOI, which is pretty cool. And then with no motor and a 10-foot kayak. Listen, guys, if you were hesitant about fishing this season because you thought maybe you didn't have, a motor or the right kayak, I think these guys are going to show that it's a combination of the tool and also the knowledge. But Josh finished the season with 594 points, Jesse with 593, Kyle Christovergis had 586, and Charlie had 499. Charlie, if you had found us one stop earlier, that could have really mixed some things up even more. But you won a couple tournaments. You've always placed, I believe, and you cut a check in Battle of the Best. So I'm excited to see what this call is going to look like at the end of next season. Because I have a feeling that you guys are going to be, probably hanging out at the top again. But you never know who's going to be fishing next year.
Well, we know that Josh is going to have a bullseye on his back, and we know that he doesn't care. He's going to have a bullseye on his back because he's the defending Battle of the Best champ. He's the defending AOI champ, and there's going to be a lot of anglers gunning for him.
Look at that thing. Well, let's solo Josh really quick. Oh, it's just sorry, that wasn't what I meant to do. Out here looking at the. There we go. Could you bring the plaque up just one more time, Josh?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Angler of the Year.
The first Angler.
Big Bass USA. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Chris Leslie. That's a little dream come true right there. I actually got my check from Chris today. Actually came in the mail.
Good stuff. Yeah.
And Nick Maiers, you got to get a hold of me. Reach out on Messenger so we can get you your plaque.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is cool.
And also, public service announcement. I have somebody's plaque here from June 15th, second place. I haven't went back and looked at who won it, but if you know this is you, give me a call or hit me up on Messenger so we can get this out to you because you won this. This is yours. June 15th, second place. I know it's on Attorney X somewhere. I haven't looked it up.
Yeah, I'll look it up. But good deal, fellas. Thank you all for fishing with us this year. We may call you again, just do like a solo, maybe a walkthrough on your boat. We'll come to you, or just talking about, we'll have all the winners come on to the show. and just kind of walking us through what that day was like for you in greater detail. But we appreciate you guys. You guys are
Thank you.
what makes us who we are.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for setting this up and doing all that you do for everyone. It's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys.
But yeah,
Go ahead and wrap it, Evan.
subscribe to our channel, guys. We're going to be doing weekly podcasts. Tell your friends about us. If you know of anyone who would be interested in sponsoring a club who's looking for maybe a write-off for their business, you never know. Feel free to have them reach out to us because we definitely love to have that conversation with them to continue growing the sport. There might be some really interesting news coming in the next episode, depending on how timing works out, which might position our club in a completely different space and atmosphere. Fingers crossed on that. But honestly, there's 6 months until the next tournament season starts, right? October to March, I think, is 6 months. So we want to just make sure that we stay in touch with you all and that we're not just disappearing for 6 months and then we pop up again. It's like, hey, we have a three club event with MAKBF and MBKBL in Potomac. Come fish with us. We want to make sure we know what you need, when you need it, and how we can be the best guides to really helping you all have the greatest fishing experience possible. That's what we're all about. Anything else, Carl?
Yeah, we're open to, we want you guys to participate and feel active in building up our club and making it the best that it can be. So if you have ideas, things you'd like to change or like changes you'd like to see throughout the season, definitely hit us up on Messenger and let us know. Because anyone who's ever given us an idea, you know that we listen. And if it's a really good idea, we try to implement it as quickly as possible. So if you got some great ideas that you want to share with us, you know how to get a hold of us on Messenger, right? So
Yeah,
that would be my advice.
You paid your dues. You guys have a say in everything. So
You got a
that's it.
suggestion?
So
Let's do at least one event next season where it's a shotgun start and no electronics and no motors.
Say
I'm
less.
definitely judging that event.
okay, are pedals considered a motor?
No,
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I mean it's a form of propulsion, but it's not a motor. So if you can pedal, or if you can pedal faster than some yoke dude can paddle, more power to you. But
It's just okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I'm
That's
just saying.
pure. That's pure right there.
Shakira. You know what I mean? Let's go.
I love
Take
it.
it.
Someone else had recommended a frogs only tournament
Ew.
during the summer. So I don't know. There was a good frog bite in the Potomac for like 2 weeks. But all right. I like that. It'll be a poll. That's pretty much how we make all our decisions about here. So we'll poll it and see how it goes.
I usually vote both ways, so
Good deal. But I think that's all she wrote, fellas.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thank you.
appreciate all you guys, man, and congratulations on a fantastic year, each and every one of you, and everybody else out there that's not on this podcast, man. We appreciate you guys rocking with us this year. We really do, man. So look forward to doing it again next year.
Yeah.